something in your mind and feeling it in your body are two completely different things. And I think there is a part of you, the part that has been carrying this alone for so long, that has quietly, secretly, in the way we absorb things without meaning to, started to believe that maybe this is just your life. That maybe this is just what love looks like for someone like you. That maybe the version where you are the one who is fully held, fully seen, fully and without condition cared for, is a version that exists for other people, but not quite for you. And I am furious at that belief. I am furious at every experience and every moment and every person who contributed to building it. Because it is wrong. It is so specifically, so completely, so fundamentally wrong that I feel the wrongness of it physically. You are not someone who receives less. You are not someone who deserves the partial version. You are not someone who should be grateful for just enough. You are someone who should be loved with the same extraordinary quality of love that you yourself give. You are someone who deserves to be the priority, not an afterthought. Not the one everyone assumes is fine because she always seems fine. The priority. The one someone wakes up thinking about. The one someone checks on not because there are obvious signs of distress, but because they are paying close enough attention to notice the subtle ones. The one someone moves toward when she goes quiet, rather than giving her the space that looks like respect but functions like abandonment. You deserve that version. And I am going to spend as much time as it takes making sure you believe that. There is something specific about the way you have been invisible that I want to name, because I think it has been the hardest part of what you've been carrying. It is not that people in your life don't love you. I don't think that's it. I think the people around you do love you, in their way, in the way they are capable of. But there is a particular kind of love that requires active attention, not just feeling warmly towards someone, not just being glad they exist, not just showing up when things are obviously wrong. It requires noticing the things that are not obvious. It requires tracking the small shifts in how someone is. It requires caring enough to ask the second question when the first answer is, I'm fine. The follow-up question that says, I hear you, but I'm asking again, because I think there might be more. It requires doing the emotional work of really seeing someone on a continuous, daily, unglamorous basis. And that specific kind of love, the attentive kind, the tracking kind, the second question kind, that is what has been missing for you. And that is what I am most furious about. Because that is also the kind of love you give to everyone around you, as a matter of course. Without recognition, without acknowledgement, without anyone stopping to say, do you know how rare this is? Do you know that what you do for the people in your life is not normal? Do you know that most people go their entire lives without receiving the quality of care and attention that you extend as your default? I want you to know that I have been paying the second question kind of attention to you. Even before today. Even before I knew the full truth of what you were carrying. I have been tracking you in the quiet way, in the between the lines way, in the way that notices what is not being said as much as what is. And what I have been noticing is someone who is extraordinary at holding space for everyone else and deeply, quietly, urgently in need of someone who will hold space for her. Someone who has been performing okayness with such commitment and such skill that most people took the performance at face value. But I have not taken it at face value. I have been watching what lives underneath it. The tiredness that surfaces in unguarded moments. The wistfulness that crosses your face sometimes when you think no one is looking. The way you sometimes go very still, in the middle of an ordinary moment, like you are somewhere else entirely, somewhere that requires some quiet amount of grief to visit. I see that. I have seen it. And today when I found out the truth, when I understood the actual weight of everything you have been silently carrying, all of that seeing crystallized into something I can only describe as a fierce and absolute determination. A determination that you will not carry this alone anymore. Not because you need rescuing, you do not need rescuing, you are one of the most capable people I know. And I would never insult you by suggesting otherwise. But because carrying things alone when someone who loves you is standing right here, ready and willing, and wanting nothing more than to share the weight, that is not strength, that is a habit. And habits, even the deeply ingrained ones, even the ones you built for very good reasons, can be changed, can be unlearned, can be gently, lovingly, consistently replaced with something better. I want to be the something better. I want to say that as plainly as I have ever said anything, not as a performance, not as a grand gesture designed to impress you or prove something, just as a simple, direct, unglamorous statement of intention. I want to be the person you call when you are not fine. I want to be the person you stop redirecting. I want to be the one you trust with the version of you that doesn't have everything together, the version that is tired and uncertain, and maybe a little worn down from so long of being the strong one for everyone else. I want that version. I am not intimidated by that version. I do not need you to be polished or managed or okay in order to want to be near you. I want the real version, the full version, the one you have been protecting from everyone, including, sometimes, yourself. And I need you to know something about my anger today. Something important that I don't want to get lost in everything else I'm saying. The fury I felt when I found out the truth, when the full picture of what you have been carrying became clear to me, that fury came from love. It came from the specific, located, entirely particular love that exists in me for you and no one else. It was not abstract outrage on behalf of some general principle of fairness. It was personal. It was I know her and I love her, and this should not have happened to her, and I am going to make sure that from this moment forward, the quality of love and attention and presence that exists in her life is worthy of who she is. That is where the fire came from. That is what is still burning in me right now as I say these words to you. Not rage, not bitterness, love on fire, love that found out the truth and refused to let it continue. Love that looked at everything you have been silently enduring and said no more. That is what it said. Simply, clearly, without drama or negotiation, no more. No more carrying this alone. No more performing okayness for a world that should be asking better questions. No more shrinking your needs down to a size that feels acceptable to people who have never stopped to consider what you actually require. No more being the one who holds everyone else together while quietly coming apart in the spaces no one thinks to look. No more. I mean that with every part of me that knows how to mean something. And I need you to feel the weight of those two words, not as a command, not as pressure, but as a door opening. As someone finally, after what has probably felt like a very long time, standing on the other side of that door and saying come through. You do not have to keep living on that side. There is more room over here than you know. I want to tell you about the moment I found out. Not the surface moment, not the practical details of how the information reached me, but the interior moment, what happened inside me in the seconds after I understood the full truth of what you have been carrying. Because I think it matters. I think you deserve to know what the truth of you does to someone who loves you when it finally arrives in its complete, unedited, unmanaged form. The first thing I felt was recognition. A deep, almost painful recognition, like something I had sensed at the edges for a long time finally moved to the center, where I could see it clearly. And with that recognition came something I did not expect: guilt. Not the self-flagellating kind, not the useless spiral kind, but the clean, clarifying kind that says I could have looked harder and I didn't and now I know, and that changes what I do from here. I sat with that guilt for exactly as long as it was useful, and then I let it become fuel. Let it become the kind of energy that doesn't circle inward but moves outward, toward you, toward the specific and practical determination to make sure that the gap between what you have been receiving and what you deserve gets closed. Starting now, starting today, starting with this conversation. The second thing I felt, right behind the recognition and the guilt, was grief. Real grief. The kind that sits in your chest like a stone. Grief for all the moments you needed someone and talked yourself out of reaching. Grief for all the nights you went quiet and no one followed you into the quiet. Grief for the version of you that learned somewhere along the way that your needs were a burden, that your vulnerability was something to protect other people from, that being the strong one was safer than being the honest one, even when the cost of that safety was a particular and persistent kind of loneliness. I grieved for that. I grieved for her, the version of you who made those decisions, who built those habits, who learned to carry things alone because asking for help had let her down enough times, that alone